I'll give you a little introduction. The woman whose story I'm going to read you, or portion of, her name is Suzanne Bobo Bolin. She is a lively 67-year-old woman who lives on Kauai's North Shore. She's among the small number of people in the world who have swum along the rugged Napali coast of Kauai, where winter waves reach heights up to 40 feet and crash into jagged cliffs. In fact, Bobo has made the swim so frequently since 1972, she's lost count how many times she's done it. She begins her swims at Kauai Beach, where the highway ends on Kauai's North Shore. Hundreds of feet above, the narrow 11-mile Kalalau Trail winds its way along the cliff faces from Kauai Beach into Kalalau Valley. The first time I swam the Napali Coast, I started out by swimming to Hanakapiai Beach, about 1 mile by ocean. If you pick the right conditions, you can get there in as fast as 30 minutes. If you pick the wrong conditions, you can get there in as slow as an hour and a half. I'm a very cautious person when it comes to the ocean. I know that I'm very, very little and it's very, very big. I had to overcome a lot of my own personal fears to swim farther. The way I did that was to swim to Hanakapiai a bunch of times. The more I did, the more at peace with the ocean I got, and the less intimidated I felt. The first time I swam all the way to Kalalau, 6 miles by ocean, was with a female friend who's a surfer. She said, "I'll paddle my surfboard if you want to swim it." After I swam to Kalalau about 5 times with surfboard escorts, I realized I'd be a lot happier doing it by myself. Once I started doing that, it seemed like the sea life was a lot more at ease with me being alone. I started making the swim by myself a lot. I have a lot more exciting, fun experiences than when I had other people with me. Fish, turtles, dolphins, and things like that would swim up a lot closer to me. Sometimes at Hanakapiai, I'd see 25 gigantic turtles with shells about 5 to 6 feet in diameter right next to the cliff. They're totally absorbed in eating the limu, or algae, off the cliff, completely not paying any attention to me at all. Every now and then, one will swim away from me, then swim back. They're probably thinking about me, "That thing looks like a turtle without a shell." I've had it take as long as 6.5 hours to swim to Kalalau, and I've done it in as fast as 3.5 hours. The most recent time I swam to Kalalau, I hadn't done it for 2 years before that. I was thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I'm getting old. I'm feeling kind of weak. I lost all confidence. I called up all my boat captain friends who run along the Napali and told them, "I'm going to be swimming the Napali, so keep an eye on me, will you? I'm not even sure I can make it." My friend and I left out of Kauai Beach, took off down the Napali, and I got to Kalalau an hour and a half in front of him. I felt just fine. It was a piece of cake. One time, as I was swimming past Hanakoa Valley, roughly halfway between Kauai Beach and Kalalau, I look underwater. In front of me, on the sand, is a tiger shark circling around. He's about 5 feet long. I'm wondering, what am I going to do? He's right in my way. If I go out into the deeper water to go around him, I'll be even more in his environment. And I can't turn around and go back against the current and the wind. I decide to swim at him and see what happens. He sees me coming and he goes out, around, and behind me and starts following me. I have my mask and snorkel on, so when I want to look behind me, I have to roll over on my back and it stops my forward progress. I'm not adrenaline rushing yet, but I am worrying about the darn thing. I keep turning around and looking at him and I don't seem to be getting anywhere. He keeps following me and it's irritating as all hell. Then I start to think, he doesn't know what I am, or he would have bitten me by now if he knew how harmless I was. He doesn't know what I've got. He doesn't know if I have stingers or big teeth. He's 5 feet long. I'm 5'4". I'm bigger than he is. I turn around and I swim at him as fast and as hard as I can while thinking, I'm going to bite you. and he swam away. I feel like what I did only works with sharks smaller than you. If it had been a bigger shark, he would have just opened his mouth and let me swim in. I've lost count how many times I've swum the Napali Coast, but the times I've seen sharks have been so few that I don't worry about it anymore. You can't just go swimming down the Napali like I used to, naked, with my mask, snorkel, and fins, period. Now, I always swim with an inflatable round floater ball with a flag that comes out at the top so boats that motor along the Napali can see me. According to the Coast Guard laws, boats are supposed to have no wake within 200 yards of any coastline, which means you're going really slow, and that includes along the Napali coast. But tour boats like to stick right next to the cliffs because that's where the least wind is. When a boat goes up in a wave and you're in the trough, they can't see you because they can't see over the bow of their boat. So they can run you over really easily. People have gotten seriously propped or clipped by boat propellers along the Napali. You can get killed easily. At first, I resisted swimming with the float. The boats would come by and the idiots would yell at me, "What the hell, I almost ran you over." I'd holler back, "I'm gonna own your boat if you run me over." I finally got tired of them yelling at me and me yelling at them and having these interactions that were unfriendly with people who are basically my friends who I've known for years. So I started taking the float along. It's easy enough to do. It has a little round ring on the bottom that you tie a rope to. I tie the rope to my ankle and pull it behind me. When I first started using the float, the boat guys would say, "Yeah, Bobo!" They're happy and I'm happy, even though I do still wish they would be out farther from the coast. But at the same time, you cannot control other people in this world. You can only control yourself, if you're lucky. The closest I ever got to being killed on the Napali was in the early 1970s. On the swim to Hanakapiai, I had gotten a couple stings from Mammoth Wars jellyfish, but that's not that uncommon. They're out there and every now and then you get stung. It feels like getting burnt by fire and it doesn't go away right away. That burning sensation will last for a couple hours. It's really awful. Mammoth Wars are mean. They have a bubble on top. The wind blows on that bubble and they float along. Hanging from the bubble, they have these long stringers. The bubble doesn't sting you, it's the stringers that do. They just have to touch your skin and they inject nerve poison into your body. They work together as a colony. They inject a bunch of that poison into a fish or other animal and eat the thing that they paralyzed. That day I was with my friend Mike. We got to right around Hanakoa and we started getting into some thick wind lines of jellyfish. They were maybe 4 feet wide and the stringers were hanging down 4 to 5 feet deep. When we hit the first line of them, we decided to hold our breath, dive down, swim underwater, then come up. When we got on the other side of them, we see that there's another line. We thought, okay, we'll swim underneath this line of them too. So we dove down, held our breath, swam underneath it, and came up in a clearing. But the clearings between the lines of jellyfish were getting smaller and smaller until we started coming up into little holes in the midst of this gigantic school of Mammoth Wars. We were getting stung more and more, and I was losing the mobility in my arms. Not only was I starting to burn up, it was stinging all over my face, neck, chest, and arms. And when I tell my arm to do a stroke, it wasn't cooperating the way I wanted to. So we decided that we could keep swimming and get stung to death, or we could try to climb the cliff and intersect with the Kalalau trail, the 11-mile dirt hiking trail high up on the cliff. But the spot where we were, the cliff was straight up and down. We chose to climb up the straight up and down cliff because if we were going to get killed, it might not be as painful as going by man of war. We took off our fins and hung them on our arms. We had to wait for a big wave to bash us into the cliff, then take the highest grip we could on the vertical face. Then the wave sucks down and leaves the cliff dry. I went first. I catch a big wave up to the cliff. I grab a hold and I'm on. I look back and it's Mike's turn. He waits for the wave to come up. It takes him, bashes him up against the cliff. He tries to grab on, but he doesn't make the grab. He gets sucked down the cliff. Bang, 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 bang. I'm like, holy shit, this doesn't look good. He's got blood on him now. The second time he hit the cliff, he made it. After that, we had to start climbing up the vertical face. It was just hand over hand. By the time we got to the top, we were close to the 7-mile point of the Kalalau Trail. Our original plan was to swim down to Kalalau Valley, where I had a stash of blankets and food, and to camp a while. It was 4 miles by hiking trail into Kalalau, or 7 miles back to Kauai Beach, where the road is. We're all stung up, we're hungry, we're sunburned, we're tired. We were so happy to be alive that we decided we were going to hike the 7 miles back, go out to dinner, have some drinks, and celebrate that we were alive. I have been clean and sober for 28 years. One day at Hanalei Bay, I made a bargain with God that I would quit drinking and using drugs. God kept his end of the bargain, and I kept mine. I haven't had a drop now in 28 years. I haven't smoked a joint or done any drugs in 28 years. In those days, there were very, very few recovery people on Kauai. Today, it's a lot better than it ever was, and I feel a part of having helped that grow. I'm a really open-minded, clean and sober person because I dragged myself through so much hell that if you're dragging yourself through hell, I'll help you if I can. The ocean has been my saving grace from the get-go. It has kept me alive even when I was an alcoholic. I was a surfer through all that time, even though toward the end of it I surfed more inside the bottle than I did in the ocean. The ocean really didn't have anything to do with my recovery, but it is connected to my life in a broader picture. The ocean has always kept me healthy. I remember when I first got sober, a woman I'd met in a recovery program said to me, "Well, now that you've been restored to sanity, you don't have to do those crazy things anymore like swim the Napali Coast." I went home and I thought, whoa, I can't let these crazy recovery people tell me what to do. The very next day, I swam the Napali Coast. That woman thought swimming the Napali was part of my self-destruct. It was part of my soul.